So they asked for a list of top-line items from President Trump yesterday in the White House. They send over this list after their meeting, and it literally forced some members of the Republican leadership to laugh about it. Senator Roy Blunt, he made a public comment about it. He couldn't believe that on the list of items that the president wants is a new FBI building. Yeah, President Trump's been pushing for a new FBI building for a while. That's on the list, among other crazy items that are on the list. Really? And you mock Nancy Pelosi for shoving in pork and pet projects? Where's this drain the swamp talk? There was plenty of other things in there that made no sense for a stimulus package. What in the world does a new FBI building have to do with Americans who are suffering right now? Tell me. I'd love to know. Someone tell me in the chat right now. I can't figure it out. I mean, he mocks them on a regular basis anyway. So he wants them to have a new building? Okay. That's just one of the ridiculous items. One of the big sticking points, though, is this payroll tax cut. So yesterday, in this meeting we're hearing, they sat down, and one of the things that President Trump brought up was the payroll tax cut. And he looked around the room, and he asked, who's in support of this? Can we get this through? Payroll tax cut? Now, President Trump, you'll remember, has said he would veto any new stimulus that didn't have a payroll tax cut. That means if you get a paycheck, your paycheck would have fewer taxes taken out of that paycheck. But the problem is that many programs that rely on payroll taxes are about to go insolvent, like Social Security, Medicaid. How are we going to pay for it? It's one of our biggest drivers of revenue in the federal government. He's already cut payroll taxes once in 2016. How are we going to do it again? Republicans are not on board with this. Democrats absolutely don't want it, but Republican senators do not want it. So he glanced over, according to the reports, he glanced over to Representative Senator McCarthy, Ryan McCarthy, and he looked back at him, Kevin McCarthy, excuse me, I'm thinking of my friend from high school, Ryan McCarthy. He looked over at Kevin McCarthy, and Kevin said, he did this with his face. Then he looked over at Senator Mitch McConnell, and Mitch McConnell just went. Have you ever seen that face before? Honey, do you want to go to that restaurant tonight? That was the response on payroll tax cuts. And President Trump says he'll veto it if that's not included in it. There's no appetite for it. You had a number of senators come out yesterday publicly saying they don't support it because how are we going to pay for Social Security, Medicaid, and other programs? We can't. But among the big things that were discussed yesterday and what we're likely to now see inside of this is a liability protection. So let's go through the items we know are being talked about openly. I really think because I think we're at stalemate on some of these items. I mean, there are some high-level items right now between the White House and Republicans that they're just at a stalemate. It reminds me of this. I saw this morning and started laughing. Like, this is the White House, and on the left there are the Senate Republicans. And, over here are some Democrats. Just kind of want to get in on the action a little bit. I'm just kind of sniffing around waiting. But we'll just sit here. We'll just sit here and wait. That's kind of what it looks like to me right now. So another piece that the Republicans couldn't believe was left out of the White House's proposals was testing and tracing. And one Republican senator said, how tone deaf do you have to be? How tone deaf do you have to be? They didn't say this on the record. They didn't want their name out there. But a Republican senator openly mocking President Trump. Openly mocking President Trump. Saying, how tone deaf do you have to be? Right now, we need contact tracing and testing. It's incredibly important because Senate Republicans more and more have spoken out about it in recent weeks, and they absolutely need it to be in this draft. They couldn't believe that the White House didn't have it in there. Among the things, though, that are shaping up right now, let's go through the details that we know at this hour. So buckle your seat belts, pull up your pants. The administration, led by Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, sent over a red line proposal. They cut out $25 billion in testing. Cut it out. No testing. Do you think that's going to pass among Democrats? No. Even Republicans were pissed about it. No testing, no contact. What, are you crazy? They cut out $10 billion for the Centers for Disease Control. So the CDC, they cut that out. Senators were like, what? How tone deaf do you have to be? Another $15 billion they cut out for the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, cut that out. They also cut out global health funding and virus-related funds for the Pentagon. I mean, am I living in a bizarro world? You cut out testing. You cut out funding, testing at the Pentagon. You cut out health funding at the global health funding level. You cut out money for the Centers for Disease Control in your proposals. Those were your top items that you were focused on when you sent this over to the Senate? I need a swig of iced coffee after that. And you want a new FBI building. Priorities, folks. So here are some other items that are on the table right now. Liability protections. Let's go through the rest of this list. Liability protections. Of all the pieces in the forthcoming GOP legislation, this is the big one that Senator Mitch McConnell wants absolutely.